This is lesson 12, and it's been a very exciting quarter. Let us go right into our lesson and let us do the memory text. This week's lesson is about Sabbath, experiencing, and the living character. Let's go into our memory text. It says, and he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath. 2:27 and 28. I want to go right into this story they have on Sabbath afternoon. It talked about a lady named Jody. She was the only Seventh-day Adventist in her graduate program. And her choice not to attend some social events on Sabbath made her beliefs very visible. One day, one of her friends, Gail, called her. Gail's husband was going to be out of town for 6 weeks, and she asked Jody if she wanted to spend the next 6 Friday nights with her because she knew Jody did nothing on those evenings anyway. For the next 4 Friday nights, they ate together, played music, shared their Christian experiences, and generally enjoyed each other's company. The 5th weekend, Gail told Jody that she had been downtown shopping and looked at her watch. Oh, good, she thought, Sabbath is very soon. She suddenly realized that over the 4 Friday nights she experienced something new in her Christian experience. She had grown, learned more of her God, and deepened her faith. Sabbath had been an opportunity for education and personal development. It is interesting. It's an interesting story about how we can think of the Sabbath as not just a day of rest, but as a means of education as well. You know, sometimes when we do things, we don't know how others are watching us. And I just really enjoyed that testimony of keeping the Sabbath. Somebody's always watching you. Um, the Sabbath, it calls our thoughts to nature and brings us into communion with the Creator. You know, when you can go and know the Sabbath is drawing near and you can relax and see what Jesus gave you, it's such a blessing. Over on Sunday, time to be astonished. Let's go to Sunday, time to be astonished. Have you ever wondered why God chose to give us 2 harmonious creation accounts? In the first 2 chapters of Genesis, Genesis 1 recounts the creation week and the growing wonder of the earth as it's given form and then life in the creation of man and woman on the 6th day. Genesis 2 looks at the same account, but from a different perspective, with a focus on the 6th day. Adam is at the center of the picture now, and everything is described as being there for him and the woman, the gardens, the rivers, and the animals. Creation is too deep for one single account. We cannot comprehend creation. We still are in awe about what God has created. But just imagine the first time Adam and Eve seen everything. They was made on the 6th day. Then all of a sudden, God is taking them around and they're seeing the animals, the sky, the grass and the flowers. And they're asking, oh, What is that? What is that? Because did they automatically know everything? They had to be taught, didn't they? At that moment, learning began. And they comprehended faster than we comprehend. But they was in awe. They didn't take all that for granted. So when you think of creation and people think of Adam and Eve and they had it so good because they lived in the Garden of Eden and they had God and they did, but they was in awe of what God did for them. And that's why I love to be able to travel. I haven't been to a lot of places, but when I go, and I know I told this before, me and Clyde, we drove to Vegas and we was near California. But no, when we drove to Vegas, and it was nothing out there in Mexico, New Mexico. And so there was the tumbleweeds, and my daughter Candace, she said, "What are y'all looking at? What are y'all seeing out there?" And we was enjoying the tumbleweeds. I've never seen them. We don't have them here, you know. You see them on movies, but you never see them in real life. Yeah. And so we can enjoy some of the simple things that God has made, you know, and be thankful what God has given us in our different areas.
You kind of wonder what Adam's thought.
Do you have a mic? Okay.
You kind of wonder what Adam's thought when God took him out of the garden. He probably thought perhaps that he probably didn't think too much of his boss, so to speak. But when he exposed him, he traded the garden for the world. So as you say, imagine when he came out of the garden and he exposed him to the world. I think he probably needed God's help too in order to intake this without passing on, because he'd be so shocked and so surprised. He needed God then, because I can just imagine it's an illustration and a lesson that the shocking surprise that Adam, because he had no idea, because he was in the garden taking care of the garden. He had no idea.
Yeah, and
there was
then
a big world out there.
Yeah, and then God, you knew God was so special for him. He knew God was special. He knew right then that was his father and his friend and his brother, you know. And just the first thing that they celebrated was the Sabbath. And basically, it was the first marriage also. First marriage, first Sabbath. So it was an exciting time when the Sabbath rolled in. He had got married, he had got a wife, and then he celebrated the Sabbath. Can you remember the first time you learned about the Sabbath, or really the Sabbath meant something to you and you enjoyed it, not like, oh, I need to not work on this day or I need to go to church on this day. I'm talking about how you felt being thankful that God did give you this day, knowing that you are worshiping somebody that did all this stuff for you. You know, he woke you up in the morning. Go ahead, Dan.
Victor, we did. I remember a company would come to the house, and he would, Uncle Nathaniel, and he mentioned the Sabbath. I don't know if it was Seventh-day Adventist or what at the time, but we didn't know because we were little kids. Well, we were 10, 12 years old, I guess. And we asked him about, we couldn't figure out how Jesus died and rose on a certain date. It didn't correlate with the calendar. And the older people back there would just tell us, "Oh, don't worry about that. You're just supposed to believe." That's all we ever get. You just got to believe. So today is different. As you learn, you learn that
Yes.
how it correlates with one another. But they just said believe and just to shun us away, and that was it. But we didn't hear a lot about the Seventh-day Adventist law. We were so embedded in the Methodist Church until nothing else mattered.
Anybody else remember their first experience of keeping that Sabbath day? And the excitement of keeping the Sabbath?
Well, my first experience with Sabbath wasn't Adventist, but it was my sister was, this guy was teaching Three Angels Message. And one of the things that he did, he made people, he had people worshiping the Sabbath like the biblical Sabbath. And when I first began from the first day church and then doing this, when my sister said, we're not going to do this, we're not going to eat, we're not going to, I said, okay, but from experience where you used to on Saturdays doing certain things, and then all of a sudden you don't do it, to me, it showed me as a child, like, man, this is different.
Yeah.
And it also, it probably was a blessing. I knew it was because, but not me knowing it at the time is what I did know. But where it leads me today from that experience, that summer that I experienced that up to now, where I'm at now today is where it started.
Yeah.
And, and my sister was, she had, moved down to Texas. We were in Colton, Texas, and I spent the summer down there with her. And so we didn't have a lot of food and certain things, and she didn't cook on Sabbath,
Right.
She did this, had cold cuts in the refrigerator, you eat them.
Yeah.
But the blessing came one day. I was walking from downtown, and my sister needed some money. But I didn't ask God for it, but I was walking downtown and all of a sudden this crack in the cement. I found a $10 bill down there in this crack. For us, every time I reflect on it, I like, just ordinary walking, you never would have saw that. And then it was like somebody folded up perfectly and stuck it in the crack.
Mm.
And that was always amazed me how, after later on, knowing that God directed me to that $10 that we needed something to get my sister.
You need a mic. Get her a mic. Clyde said one thing when they grew up, Saturdays was going to town and going to this Max hamburger spot in Muskogee. And that's what they did every Saturday. And people, they did have a ritual of what they did, like they went to Max Saturday, Sunday, they went to church. Monday through Friday, a lot of people worked, went to school and stuff like that. But they did, I liked his dad. He was a dedicated person to get up, be at church on time, Can you tell us your first experience? I know we might have heard, but tell us, I love hearing.
I honestly don't remember my first experience with the Sabbath. I remember, when I first heard about the Sabbath, it was a family member, her and her husband, and my family was always into gatherings and parties and, things of that nature. So when they came over to the house, it was a Saturday and everybody's out in the backyard, having fun, eating, listening to music. And it was like, we can't do that until the sun set. I said, here they go, they tripping with this stuff again. So they stayed in the house down off in a room where nobody was in.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just the weirdest thing, like, you with family. So why are you not with family?
Yeah.
Why you come over here to go sit in the room? So I didn't understand it until I was actually pregnant with Marshawn when I started studying. It was Pastor Johnson, who was the pastor of the church at the time. And I just became interested in knowing more about the Bible. Because when we always were at church, we had to go to church. Whatever bus came, that's get on the bus, y'all go to church. And I remember asking questions. I don't even remember the questions I asked. I remember asking questions to the bus leader, because that's how it was. And he never would answer any of my questions. We didn't read Bibles. We didn't have our Bibles with us. So basically the church I went to most of the time was just pretty much
go have fun
activity, just something to keep kids occupied and busy. there was no biblical teaching. And I remember asking I wish I remember what questions, because he kind of looked at me strange, but then he didn't answer my questions. And after that, it was just over. But when I started studying, when I was pregnant, then I started understanding what it meant to keep the Sabbath. And because I didn't think I could keep it, I used to just sleep all day after church until the Sabbath end. So that's what I slept all the time, just because I didn't know what to do, what not to do. I didn't want to go against it. So we left to church and I was gonna go sleep.
Mhm.
That's what I did for probably like the first year.
You know, I remember as a little girl, the pastor came over and me and Joyce used to study in the front room. I felt so grown up. And then I learned, you know, he did these lessons with us and taught us, and we could understand, not over our head. And that's why I used to say, I was ready to go to heaven. I was ready to get baptized. I understood. I could recite so much stuff, and I was ready to go to heaven. I just knew Jesus was going to come. After I got older, I got a little inkling of the apostles and the disciples when Jesus told them that he was going to leave. They was ready for him to come right back. They didn't think it was going to be a long time past, and you know, some of them would get killed and stuff. But anyhow, the Sabbath it should astonish us. And I know different ones God has opened our eyes to see some of the things he's made. He's helped us to relax. Like if we didn't like outside, we like outside now, and we can listen to the bird. There's some people who don't. I don't want to go outside because they're from the city and they don't like some of the nature things. But then God is the one who shows us his self in nature, you know.
You know, that, excuse me, that was one of the things that is when that first experience that you understand, you know, what God is trying to tell you about the Sabbath, you see these things, and also your mind relaxes on the Sabbath because now you're not dreaded down with the everyday stuff that you do each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Sabbath comes, your mind actually rests and your body, it does something different too as well.
Yeah.
So you're not doing the same thing. So you kind of reflect on everything that, you know, that you done and look and thinking like, wow, this is something, you know, to kind of get that experience that Adam and Eve had, you know.
Yeah.
They were looking at nature, looking at everything that God, you kind of see things in a whole different light, you know, when you can sit down and just look and reflect on what God does.
So let's go on over to, I forgot what day it is. I think it's Monday. No, let's go on over to Monday. And can somebody tell me about this account? What happened in Exodus 14 through 29? Imagine this is you in this account. In Exodus 16, 14 through 29. I always love to have that imagination that I'm one of the children of Israel. And imagine, tell me about what happened. What's going on?
Well, God provided. I'm just thinking about, and you know what it reminds me, yesterday, because I get off of work later. Most of us get paid on Friday. So it's like I'm trying to rush and do this. So then we gotta eat, we gotta go to the store, we gotta do this all before the Sabbath comes in. And then it gets to a point where it's just like, sometimes I feel like I'm failing, I can't keep it. I know I'm supposed to plan all week, but when things happen in certain ways, and with them, they were complaining. Well, God provided for them. They were out in the wilderness. They couldn't plant food and plant gardens and all that. They didn't have that, and God provided for them. You know, now it's stuff all over the ground. we're supposed to eat. God provided this for us, so let me take some extra. Let me take some extra in case it runs out. And then the other ones, I'm just gonna take a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows that God knows our struggles. He knows what we're going through, and He provided for them every day with food.
Yeah.
Just get what you need, and tomorrow it'll be the same way. Stop stressing over everything.
And
You know-
as a kid, just a second, as a kid, when we grow up and we get hungry, what do? You go say, what?
Mom,
Mama, I'm hungry. And Mama provides the food.
Yeah.
Every day you can say, Mama, I'm hungry. And when you look at this account, the Israelites didn't even have to say, Moses, we hungry. Can you tell God to give us some food? It's already provided. It's right. And Moses said, this God knows that you need to eat. And this is probably your protein and your vitamins and everything all in this manna. And he provided for them every day, told them how to get it, told them how to prepare it. If they wanted to do something else with it, it wasn't like they had to just get it and eat it like that. They could do other stuff with it but like you said, if they got too much, what would happen to it?
But you know, it was about them being faithful and dependent on God is what it was, because what they've been exposed to prior to that, they hadn't they done kind of left God because of the situation they were in.
Mm-hmm.
So when God brought them out, God had to put them back, was gradually making them faithful to Him again and showing them what He could do for them.
Yes.
And that's why He was doing it in a way that, He didn't just make them do it, but He was showing them, you need me, I'm going to take care of it.
But what about the Sabbath? What did He do on the Sabbath?
What He told them, it's going to be plenty for Sabbath. I mean, you come get a double portion on Friday.
Portion, that's what I wanted
and
to hear.
you double up, and don't worry about it, because there would not be none that's going to fall on Sabbath.
Yeah.
But,
He
you
didn't
had
tell
some
them.
that didn't believe.
Yeah. He didn't tell them, y'all fast on Sabbath. It's a Sabbath. I don't want y'all, it's not going to be nothing out there. So y'all just fast until, sundown. He didn't do that. God is so good. He provides for us. Even if we don't, like some people, they don't like to stay for potluck because they didn't get to prepare nothing. And we've all been through that. I didn't fix nothing. I'm not going to stay. Then when you see you're in a family and it's like somebody's invited you over their house for dinner, you just go on and eat and enjoy. And then sometimes it looks like a little food back there. And sometimes it'll be food left over. And if it isn't, everybody got how much they wanted. God is so good. We know it. We know what God does back there with our food. But God has to let us get in our mind that He has provided for us. You might not have fixed nothing, but He provided for you, and we have to accept it. But we don't. We're like, oh, I don't want to, because every week I don't get a chance to fix this or that. How many people we know that says that? But then when you get to that, like, what you fix, Dan? Oh, I'm so glad I didn't get to fix anything. I'm so glad God let you fix something.
But they ate this for 40 years.
Yes. And if you look at that verse, it does say, like I said, they just didn't go get it and eat it the same way. But it said that they could do other things with it, So they might have made some burgers or cut it in strips and made it look like, God, look what He did with our animals, our plants. Some people look at this like it's just a bland thing God gave them, and He just, threw something at them 40 years. So, but He didn't. He provided a miracle that every morning, all of a sudden, you go out there and there's some food. That's a miracle with our gardens. Even though we go and chop and plant, we're not making anything
Just
go
like
up.
the lady that did Elijah. the oil,
Mhm.
you know? That was it for her. You know, she was like, you know, if I make this for you, you know, I'm gonna starve to death, you know? But if you say you need this, I'll fix it for you, you know? So she had faith enough to believe Elijah that it was taken care of. And every time she would go to that deal, it was in there,
Yep.
you know?
You know, I love that story.
That takes a lot of
That
faith.
that is really faith. And I know I've said it before when we first moved to Oklahoma, and my dad would go and we'd have hoe cakes. It was only flour and water, and he'd fry them. And I guess we had some butter on them, and we'd sit around the table. We'd make them. We'd sit around the table, laugh. We eat and all that. Oh, this is good. I ain't never had this before. Then when we did even get some food, we say, but still, can you make some of those? What did I call them? Whole cakes or whatever. And you know, God can teach you to eat the simplest, whatever you have. You know, go ahead, Shamika.
No, my uncle used to do that for us. We used to just put peanut butter on it.
Yes, yeah.
That's how we ate.
Yeah, my mom did certain things, and then that's how I like those tomato dumplings.
Tomato dumplings,
And
yes.
when she did that, she was like, "Oh, I just feel I need something sweet, so I put it together." I'm like, what? You just throw this together, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And we never could get that recipe, and you know, she ended up went to sleep with it. So
Or you know, God can send somebody over your house and you get together, you ain't really got no food. They're like, let's go get such and such and cook up something together. You know, God is so good to us, and we have to acknowledge what he does and be willing to accept. That is what we have to do, accept what God gives us. Let's go on over to Tuesday, time for learning priorities. It says the ups and downs of Israel's experience with God were closely linked to the way they related to the Sabbath. God saw their unwillingness to respect the Sabbath as a sign of his irreverence in their lives. Let's go to Jeremiah 17:19 through 27. Jeremiah 17:19 through 27. This is let's go ahead and let's get to reading a little bit of this, okay? Go ahead and start, Shamika. Read 2 or 3 verses, and everybody got it. And we can everybody read 2 or 3 verses.
Thus the Lord said to me, Go and stand in the gate of the children of the children of the people by which the king of Judah come in, and by which they go out, and in all the gates of Jerusalem, and say to them, Hear the word of the Lord, your king of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem who enter by these gates. Thus said the Lord, Take heed to yourself, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem.
So what is he telling them there? What is being said there?
Stop working, stop doing stuff on the Sabbath.
Don't bring it in.
Don't bring it in.
Don't bring it in. And me, I don't look at this as they're encouraging you to keep the Sabbath right here.
right, they're telling them, you know,
Let's-
just stop and relax.
Yeah.
Mine's from a different version.
Well, go ahead, read 22.
It says, "You shall not bring a load out of your houses on the Sabbath day, nor do any work, but keep the Sabbath day holy, as I commanded your forefathers. Yet they did not listen or incline their ears, but stiffened the necks in order not to listen or take correction."
What's that talking about? Was they saying, okay, let's, I'm gonna do this. Did they accept what they was?
No,
Yeah.
because
So
they kept on, you know, they kept doing it. And he
Yeah.
was trying to tell them, no, just don't do that. you know?
Dan, can you start with 24?
I had also different versions.
That's okay.
Tell these people that they must obey all my commandments. They must not carry out any loads or thoughts, or through the gates of the city of the Sabbath. They must obey the Sabbath. It is a sacred day and must not do any work at all.
Go ahead and do 25.
Okay. Then the king and the princes will enter the gates of Jerusalem and have the same royal power that David had together with the people of Judah and Jerusalem. And the city of Jerusalem will always be filled with people. People will come from 27. People come from the towns of Judea, from the village around Jerusalem, and they will come from the territory of Benjamin, from the foothills, from the mountains, from the southern Judea. They will bring to my temple burnt offerings of sacrifice, grain offerings, and incense, as well as they will bring to my temple burnt offerings, as well as their offering. But they must obey me and observe the Sabbath as scribed this day. They must not carry any loaves through the gates of Jerusalem, or the day, or if they do, I will set the gates of Jerusalem on fire. Fire will burn down the palace of Jerusalem, and no one will be able to put it out.
Wow. So is the Sabbath important in these
Very
verses?
important. Yeah, that's what he was trying to get them to see. You got to stop doing what you're doing Sunday through Thursday, Friday,
Yes.
and just relax. You can't keep doing this. You have to stop.
Sabbath is supposed to be every week I tell Miss Carlin that we're getting ready for a holiday. It's a special day, you know. People, you get ready for your birthday and all these other days, but Sabbath once a week. We have a holiday once a week. And some people, they make it a burden because they want to do too much instead of worshiping God. They want to cook too much, dress too much, do their hair too much. We've been to churches like that. But you have to look a certain way. Like, I don't want to be in front of this camera because I don't have my hat on. I don't have the right shoes, and this don't match. And I'm tired. You might see my bags under the eyes, and my voice is not coming out. I don't want to sing this. This is not what God wants us to do when we get ready for the Sabbath. When we get ready for the Sabbath, we've been preparing all week, studying all week, so we can uplift Him. And that's why our burdens are even supposed to be eased through the week. And another thing, even about, God don't want you to bring any burdens. And well, through the week, we have to ask God to help us. I asked Him to help me that I did laundry yesterday. I'm trying not to do laundry on Friday, but I did. I don't want to do that even though I want to be really prepared. Sometimes we can be more organized for our jobs because we get that paycheck. But we have a greater paycheck to look for. We have a greater, what's the word? That we're waiting on Jesus to come. He has made us a promise. When you promise a kid something, keep your room clean all week, here's what I'm going to give you. Show it to you right in here's what I'm going to give you, or here's where you're going to go. Our mom used to tell us, y'all do everything, and when I come home, I'm going to take y'all someplace. Boy, we knew to look under here and look under there. She made sure we was all ready, didn't we, Berta? Then she would just take us to the park or take us to eat burgers and that was something big for us. God has a promise for us if we keep His word, and especially the Sabbath. You get that uplifting from it. In Isaiah 58, what is God saying to His people here that is relevant to us today? Did somebody read Isaiah 58 and kind of tell us about it? That first verse, it says, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. And they ask me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. You know, this cry aloud, spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet. Some people don't want to hear that trumpet is too loud. Some people don't want to hear what God wants them to do.
When they don't want to, sometimes, if people, when we observe the Sabbath, it's not for our will, it's God's will, and people always say it might be boring, but yeah, because we want to do what we want to do, and we can't do what we want to do, then it's,
What's it talking about the fast? We
Yeah.
fast on Wednesdays as a church. Some people might fast other days and times. What is this encouraging them to do about fasting?
Loosen the bonds of wickedness, undo the yokes and stuff that's bound us. That's why God wants us to do these things.
You know, when you read about how they fasted in verse 5, I think it is.
6.
Well, in verse 5, it says, it is to bow his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him. You know, when we read about the fast in the Bible, some people say, that's extreme. I can't fast like that. That's extreme, when they did the sackcloth and tore their clothes. And God, it is, when we fast, sometimes our stomach is hurting because it's hungry. And then we ask God to help us through that. It's not like, yeah. And that might be the day you're the hungriest, when you decide to fast.
Attitude.
Have you ever just not eaten and it's been okay? You skip breakfast and it's about 1 and you're like, oh man, I ain't ate nothing all day. But that wasn't your planned fast. But then when you plan to fast and read God's word, what happens to you?
That's all you can think about.
And you get attacked. People, like you said, you're hungry and things happen around you maybe, and you're trying to stay and focus with God and pray, because a fast sometimes is always about food. Some people cannot, they might have to have that little food, but it might be a fast from something else, and somebody might tempt you, and you might fast from Facebook or Twitter or whatever other the names are. Go ahead, wait a minute, Dan wanted to say something.
I just want to read in my Bible, this Bible version says, verse number 3. In verse number 3, it says, the people ask, why should we fast if the Lord never knows? That's their mentality. Why should we go without food if he pays no attention? That's kind of comical to me. We were talking about fasting, and then these people ask, why should we do this? And, God does pay attention. God knows everything. So why should you say that he pays no attention? I just thought that was interesting. This version of the Bible, I don't know what it says, James John, but James, that's what it says in this Bible. I thought that was kind of strange.
Well, that was all from doing as we please and don't go your own way. And that's why we need to avoid doing these our words, the reason why they were, expressing these things to do. And the Sabbath was letting them know that the Sabbath was a delight. It wasn't nothing that we should shun against, This is something we should expect to come and do, and we'll be blessed by it.
Yeah, and through this in verse 9 and 10, can somebody read, starting with verse 9 and read verse 10?
It says, then you will call and the Lord will answer. You will cry and he will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and speaking wickedness. 10 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give yourself to hunger and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then your light will rise in darkness and your gloom will become like midday.
Read 11. I like
And the
that.
Lord will continually guide you and satisfy your desire in scorched places and give strength to your bones. And you will like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose water do not fail.
God will help us.
Take care of
He
it.
will take care of you.
That's what he said.
Yes.
But it has to be, it has to be true. A lot of people, even in church, only do things for show.
Yes.
Like, we're fasting, but you're not studying or praying. You don't have a relationship with God, but you want to fast to show people. I mean, I guess you're trying to prove to yourself you can fit in with the church when you really don't honestly have a relationship with God. So you can't just come to church and do church and then the rest of the week do you.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't feel like they're being heard by God, because they don't have that connection with God. You can't pray today and then trip tomorrow and expect. God always hears you, but he's not going to respond when you're not true and faithful. And so I think when people don't believe that, I mean, even when we feel like we're true and faithful, we don't sometimes don't think that God is listening to us. But when we continue to stay in prayer, I know for me personally, it's when I think about, well, it's conviction for myself, and what I know I need to do to reconnect with God. It's not that he doesn't hear us or nothing changed, but it's exciting. We want everything to happen now.
But you know, it does say at a point through all this, because God has tried and tried with us, then he will not hear us. It's going to be a time God's not going to hear us. And we're going to think we're praying and praying because of a situation, but he's not going to hear us. And that's why in Isaiah 58, 13 and 14, can somebody, Bertie, you got that? Okay. Can somebody read Isaiah 58, 13 and 14?
If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasures on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, not finding your own pleasures, nor speaking your own words, then you should delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth, and feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken.
You know, you just talked about not being a Adventist and going to a function that everybody's doing their own thing. And it talks about if you can go there and speak, you know, talk of the Lord or his goodness, and not, even on Sabbath, I asked God to help me not talk about so many secular things that's happened in the week unless I'm trying to do a testimony. The other week I was going to tell Erica something, and then I said, oh, Erica, I'm going to try to tell you that Sunday because it's really not about the Sabbath. And then I forgot Sunday, and then she told me, I think she thought about it later or something, but I never got to tell her. But I have to work on that. Sometimes we think when we get around others so we can communicate, and we just talk about what was on sale. This happened, and it's not relating to God's word. We could more talk about, guess what I read? And guess what, you know, everybody doesn't want to hear that, but it's a blessing when they do. And if you can just uplift God in our conversations, and that's what we all have to work on, you know. But because, you know, Clyde tells me about his job, I'll be like, oh, Clyde, tell me that later. Ask God to help you. Tell me that later. Unless it's a testimony of you helping somebody. But that's why God wants us to turn away our foot from what we want to talk about, what we want to do, where we want to go. And it's something to work on, you know. That's a verse that we could read in the morning on Sabbath morning to help us remind us that let this be a delight. Let this be an honorable day that, we want to celebrate. This is a celebration. So do you delight in the Sabbath? If not, what can you change? Have you learned to honor the Sabbath? One of the questions we didn't get as far as I wanted to. I liked on it. It talked on Wednesday. It talked on what about your own Sabbath keeping? Have you turned it into a day of just don't do this, don't do that, rather than a time to truly rest in the Lord and know Him better? Some people are taught, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. You put in the place of things that you can do on the Sabbath. That's what you teach your kids. I'm so thankful that we was taught that coming up in the church. Some people are taught, they love the studies, they love everything they hear, but then somebody comes and says, you're not supposed to wear that color to church, or you're not supposed to do this, or don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. And it can be overwhelming, and there is a time and a place, everybody is not on the same step. We can help each other, and encourage each other, because we want to be those Bereans. We want to be praying and getting together, and no matter what, we're uplifting the Lord in our daily activities and speech. And I don't know if it talked about, was it this week or last week, the question of young people. Was it yesterday?
Being born on the Sabbath.
Huh?
Being born on the Sabbath.
Being born?
Bored.
Yes, thank you. You are talking to a teenager who is finding Sabbath boring. He is keeping it only because it is what's in the Bible, and his parents tells him to do. What suggestion will you give to help him rediscover the Sabbath as a positive learning experience? On top of it, their friends are not Sabbath keepers. So some teenagers are looking at, my friends is doing this, and my friends, and I can't, and I can't, and I can't. And we can't do this, and we can't do that. We can't eat this, we can't go here. But God gives us so much. Yes.
And it also shows it's hard to tell young people that, you being blessed, and the devil makes it look like they are being more blessed because you're not doing it, because they get to do all these things.
Yes.
But
like somebody got a job,
at the end of the day, they struggling with this because they not.
Yeah.
Testimony when we used to work in Missouri with Herbert's father.
Mm-hmm.
And well, no, not even here. We wasn't there then. We was here because we didn't work on Saturday then. But here they would work every Saturday, and I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come every Monday. He would always say, "Man, we worked this in. Man, I just made all. Look what kind of money you missing." I said, "Okay, that's fine. I'll be okay." That's what I tell him.
Yeah.
You just really miss. I said, "That's all right. I'm taken care of." See, I didn't have to go into anything details, but eventually he came to me and said, "You know what, Clyde?" Because I told him, I said, "Well, man, first thing I told him, I said, well, man, money is not quite everything you need."
Yeah.
And I guess it was about a year later, he came back in there and he said, "Yeah, Clyde, you sure was right. Money's ain't. I don't even work on Saturdays no more. That all that working I done, it told him that he didn't gain nothing
Yeah.
by making that extra money each week."
And see, I like, it talks about on the, I think this is the end, often Seventh-day Adventists spend time considering what is not acceptable to do on the Sabbath. Develop a set of questions that would keep Sabbath keepers focused on the ideas discussed in this lesson. I remember, I miss MV and AY. You know, them was the afternoon programs, and everybody used to come back. That's why I liked it called MV. It called Missionary Volunteers Meeting. They changed it to Adventist Youth, and it made some of the older people think they wasn't supposed to be involved in this. We learned so much. Candace is going to have something with the kids about learning the Bible. Oh my goodness, we used to play Pass the Bible. It helped us to be able to open our Bible, know verses in the Bible. We did so much. And after the Sabbath, we still spent time together because we had socials and we had a fun time there. And it helped us develop that relationship that there is other people studying and trying to believe like we are believing. So don't let the Sabbath be a burden or I can't do, or I'm going to sleep all day because I don't have anything else to do. I know COVID has changed so much stuff, but God is going to let us be able to witness. Let's witness to the people that we're around. Don't forget our families. You know, we always talk about, me and my sisters, we talk about how we've seen some of the preachers' kids get out of church because the preacher was working so hard, he forgot to witness to his own kids. And the kids end up there because I know y'all heard, oh, that's preacher's son, that's preacher's daughter. And they're not doing God's will because, you know, and then some of them can be on fire for the Lord. So let us not think that the Sabbath is a burden that we just have to be here today because it's Saturday. Let us rejoice just like how some people is getting ready for Christmas or Thanksgiving or a birthday or a baby shower or something else. We want to delight in this day because God gave us this day. Oh no, I think somebody is texting me to be quiet. No, I don't. But we do have to close. So let us have our closing prayer. You want to come and do that, Dan?
Father in heaven, again, we come to you as your humble servants, worshiping you upon this Sabbath. Father, as Vicky said, we should be so proud when the Sabbath comes so that we can come together and worship you in spirit and in truth. We thank you for this lesson this morning. It's an eye-opening and things that we should learn and practice more in our daily lives. And we give you these thanks on this Sabbath. Again, we should be glad that you provide a Sabbath just for your people. In Jesus' perfect name, amen.